afternoon, everybody, and welcome to a Kerfuffle partnership exclusive here today. I don't know if it is exclusive, but I claim it anyway. So here we are, Partnership Fridays. We love that. People getting together in the wonderful world of prop tech. Don't listen to what Russell Quirk says. These are good people here. These are good people. I know these people. And so yeah, just ignore
my anorak's hanging up over there. Do you need me to pop it on quickly?
I don't know, Christian. I'm so far up I'm so far up my ivory tower. I wouldn't be able to tell you. Let's just place this properly. We've got the wonderful Richard Durant here, our commercial strategic director, and Mr. Detail compared to my little bit of a butterfly. He's here today because he actually understands lettings. So that's useful from your point of view. Don't listen to what they say on LinkedIn with my 170 thumbs up for lettings expertise. I don't know jack shit. But anyway, we've got Nick here today from No Letting Go. How the devil are you, sir? All right.
I am excellent. All the better for seeing you, Mr. Whale.
Always. I'm the mental coach.
It's brightened my day up. Always makes me look like I know so much more about lettings when I talk to you. It makes me feel so much better.
Thank you. What's a tenant again? Anyway, no, enough of that. And Christian, the Viking Byfield. That sounds like the start of a Royal Rumble, doesn't it? How are you, sir? You all right?
Good, mate. I'm good. As you can see, my mascot is having a very difficult day at the office today.
Yeah, that'll be me in about an hour once we finish it. Not hopefully licking my balls. That would be too much. Right, again, back to the professionalism. I bet people didn't think this lettings partnership was going to be as dry as this, did they?
Right. To a whole new level, sorry.
Right, we have got a really, really interesting tie-up today. You've been lucky enough to share me a video of one of your first clients who's seen this partnership integration and the Gogglebox style reaction that they had, which was absolutely perfect. We'll come on to that a little bit later. Go on, Rich.
Are we watching that video? I was going to refer to somebody, something somebody referred as.
Yeah, we're going to watch that specific one, but
I won't ruin it.
No, don't. Yeah, exactly. Don't tell him it. It's like the Bible. He dies at the end. That's it. We just lost all the religious people. Guys, talk us through how this happens, what problem it was solving. Do you want to kick us off, Christian?
So look, I think look, we're at the Depositary. We're just trying to massively streamline the end of tenancy process for agents. Nick and I have been talking for years about this. I think most of you that know the history of the Depositary, we were sort of the worst kept secret in the industry. We were, touting ourselves long before we launched. But Nick and I had met at numerous industry events and had always talked about the synergy between what we were trying to do and how crucial a part sort of plugging in inventory partners like Nick and No Letting Go was really going to be critical to where we ultimately wanted to get with our process. Partner integrations are huge, but I think, sometimes partner integrations can be a little bit loose. There's a small, almost intangible benefit. Maybe like a small benefit of, you don't have to type in a landlord detail. But then you've got integrations like we've got with No Letting Go, which we'll show to you guys in a bit. And the leap forward by plugging products like No Letting Go and their capture software into our system is huge. I think the big sell on this that I would say to any sort of letting agent or property management team is, if you use this right, your property management team should never have to read a checkout report ever again. I think that's the easiest singular big sell.
Yeah, that's your elevator pitch, and I saw as Rich was intimating, we saw the reaction yesterday.
And Christian or Nick, just to position that, how much time will it save a property manager per tenancy? And I've got agency experience and I've got my opinion, but you guys, what do you believe the time save per tenancy?
So look, conservatively, we're saying this probably saves on average 15 to 20 minutes per transaction.
I think you're being quite conservative there as well. Christian. I mean, we, as you know, we do an enormous amount of checkers have done for many years, and the biggest single challenge has always been the work involved in getting the information on your checkout, in which could be anything from a house that's been trashed to a couple of small minor issues. But the biggest challenge is that whole element around negotiation and around managing that process. And I think a lot of people sort of take it as their day job. Property managers take it as their day, and sort of probably don't really know truly how much time they spend on it.
It's seen as a necessary evil, isn't it? This is how it's always been. This is how it always will be. And what you're bringing to the table is one of those wonderful things. No, actually, by this tie-up, we're able to give you time back.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the demo we did yesterday, going off the back of what Nick said, we demoed this to Robinson Jackson yesterday, who used No Letting Go, who are our partner on our platform, and we were sat there, and SJ, who heads up their sort of property management team there, she was so excited seeing this yesterday. I mean, she gave a case study that she's literally just done a tenancy where she spent an entire day, a whole day, reviewing one checkout report. Yeah. It was like a 50-60 page checkout report. It took her a whole day to go through that in detail, correlate all the issues that needed to be pulled out of that, and then negotiated with the tenant. Yeah. And I feel that is an extreme example, but that example we would literally take down to about a 5-minute job from a day's job. That is an extreme example.
It's extreme, but it's not unusual. I mean, this is, everyone in property management will, particularly when time is short, because bearing in mind we're in quite, it's quite seasonal. Once we hit those summer months and those student markets, the student checkouts start kicking in, suddenly you're in a situation where you've got, X amount of checkouts to be carried out in a limited amount of time. Then it becomes, if you've got a day where there's not so much going on, it's not so much of an issue. But of course, that's not the reality. Yeah. There's loads of other pressures coming in all over the place, and I think what the critical, if you like, freedom of when you free up the time is the critical element is to spend more time on talking to the tenants, talking to the landlords, negotiating the process, rather than spending all that time buried into the paperwork. It's about that communication element, which I think is where the value is.
Absolutely. I mean, just second what Nick said, we've had a couple of demos with agents where they've gone, we don't want to automate it too much. We like the fact that we talk to the landlords at the deduction proposal stage, and we talk to the tenants before we send them the proposals to give them a heads up. And we're like, great. When I am not for 1 second advocating or trying to say to every agent, get rid of all your human stuff and just let tech do it. You can do that, and we do have agents that fully embrace that because of operationally that's really what's viable for them. But you've got more full service agents, and I've got base, and we would still very much, how we've trained our guys with how these integrations work is exactly that. When we've got the proposals ready, we put in a personal phone call to the landlord, and we just go, look, if you've got 5 to 10 minutes for us to quickly just run through this list with you before we send it over.
And Kristen, in your experience from base, do you think tenants have more trust in tech? So whereas traditionally, the DLAPs are done by an opinion of a negotiator or property manager and so on, and quite often it's difficult to argue about your opinion because somebody will just believe it that's all it is, an opinion. When you're able to back it up by saying that the tech has, the tech is suggesting these are the dilapidations and so on, do you think there's a bit more trust in it from tenants? It makes it an easier job for the property manager?
Yeah, definitely. I think so. Look, I think when it comes to a tech platform, there is a certain innate trust, and also people just accept that that's a process. So you could email a tenant setting out a process in an email, the exact same process you do in a platform, and in an email a tenant will come back and they'll go, I've not been asked to do that before, and why are you asking for this, and why are you doing that? You can put them on a platform where they have to do exactly the same things. Click here, upload this, now do this. they won't question it, because in an interface, it's like, oh, I have to do this to get to the next stage. And so, you know, it does sort of naturally pull people through the system. The other thing that we were really, really keen to do around this whole deduction space is to get away from the emotion of it.
Yeah.
All too often, I think typically more when it's direct landlord to tenant, but also where there's managing agents as well, all too often there's this language at the start of deduction stage along the lines of, oh, it's so disappointing to see the property handed back like this. And it's like straight away you're raising that emotional tangent, because tenants fundamentally don't care what their landlord or managing agent thinks. It's just contractually, what are they liable for? And what we do and what our integration with No Letting Go does is it's all about the facts. You're presented with very tangible, evidence-based facts and it's very hard to argue with. If you're presented with something and it goes, look, here's the check-in report that shows your oven was spotless when you moved in. Here's the checkout report that shows it was absolutely disgusting. You know, here's the tenancy clause that references your responsibility, and here's the invoice for the charge to resolve that issue. That's very hard to contest. You know, you've got your contractual arrangement, you've got the evidence, end of.
And don't forget that the whole essence behind, you know, inventory management and you know, outsourcing inventory management, particularly, of course, is around the fact that emotion plays such a critical part of the interaction that goes on at the end of the tenancy. That actually, the more you can take out of that emotion out of the process, the better the outcome is. You know, inventory companies are there to you know, the wall was white, now it's blue. There's clearly a change. We register change. It's a fact. We're not there to make the decision as to whose fault it is and how much they pay for it. That's not our call. The information, the quicker it gets into somebody's systems, they can see it. And in Depositary, of course, all the information is put in one place. It's stripped out so that, you know, here are the bare line facts. What are we going to do? How are we going to work this through? And that's, you know, it's the one element in the market, I think, that, and Chris has done a fantastic job, and it's the one element that hasn't been addressed, and probably one of the biggest value adds in property management for sure, in terms of, I mean, taking aside referencing all those different things that PropTech have made some great inroads over, but this element of it, I think
hasn't been hit. And
no, it hasn't, and I think, you know, this is a good step forward, and I'm, you know, hopefully there'll be more to come. So
look, and the data sort of backs us up. So last year, our first year, we processed just over 2,000 tenancies through the platform. I think it's something like 72% of all proposed deductions across those 2,000 tenancies were accepted by the tenants without any renegotiation.
Yeah.
So nearly 3/4 of all proposed deductions, you know, and I think, you know, plugins, integrations with the likes of No Letting Go, I think are going to help us nudge that figure higher. I think we're going to struggle to get much past 80-85%, because I think there's always going to be that element that you know, there's always going to be tenants that contest something, even if it is evidence contractual.
But what was that previously, Christian? So that the important thing is there. What would that have been before that?
There is no data around it. That's the point. I mean, because we're one of the first entities to properly digitize this process. We're really the first ones to be diving into the sort of deep data sets around this. But I would probably hazard a guess that it's somewhere more around the 50% mark. Official
Kerfuffle statistics are that that's a white paper done, dusted. So we're 20% increase on that. That's perfect.
We could probably, you know, I can go back sort of 14, 15 years. I could probably look at statistically how many checkouts had some form of dilapidation on them, and it would probably be in the region of about 80%, I would imagine.
Okay.
Because rarely do you have nothing.
Yeah. Okay. So, and I mean, one thing we don't do is, you've been sat on the other side, Christian, indeed you, Nick, where you've put the pressure on the likes of the CRM companies as clients to get integration to work. And you realise, don't you, when you go into this, why it's such a big challenge? You can't just do these willy-nilly. They have to be the right relationships. They have to be the right partnerships. So how long did it take you to actually do the work? And was it a good experience just working with each other? Do you want to kick off first, Nick, on that?
Well, I like to say that I delegated this down to my team to do. So, but to be fair, that Chris and I have been talking to about this for a number of years, and the timing was right, the market was right as well, and we both knew exactly what we wanted out of it. We obviously, and that once you understand that what is the purpose here, what are we trying to achieve, and that's very, very clear. We both knew that. So I think, because we had a lot of clarity around that, the process a lot easier. Then it's a matter for the tech guys to really get stuck into that. Would you agree, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like you said, our conversation, we were very much on the same page before we got into the nuts and bolts discussions about going forward. And then that made that conversation very easy. It was a very quick discussion about how we saw this working and the benefits for both sides. And good integrations do benefit both partners.
Yeah, and of course the other big advantage is that the whole of Knowledge and Go and capture and all of the data collecting across the whole of our group, which is what 82 offices now. So it's an enormous amount of data collecting around the country. All of that is all centered around one platform. So the data is held all in one place. So that makes the process of adding value in similar ways that we're doing here much more efficient and much easier. Because if we had, we're sort of doing 7,000, 8,000, 9,000 reports a month. When you're processing that amount of reports and however many photographs and data lines there are, this process is a simple way to extrapolate that straight off the checkout, straight into the system and deal with the issue. Perfect.
We're getting some great feedback here as well from people. So let me you have a coffee while I read this out. Some of my favourite people, I assume that's Mr. Mintz there. We have fantastic feedback here from Dominic. Great tech and brilliant integration for business efficiency. No brainer. I think he's a bit of a critique about the host. So thank you for that, Dominic. We'll put that down to Friday. And then somebody who knows about my no-brainer, Mr. Gary Barker, 100% of Wales statistics made up on the spot. That's a bit rich coming from you, Gary, if I'm honest. I'm sure you told me if you said it confidently enough, it has to be true. That wasn't what I said, Gary, and I knew you weren't listening to me. What I said was, it's not a lie if you believe it. That's the Thank you for tuning in and thank you for your feedback there, guys. So look, I think that's really sort of set that up in terms of obviously where you're going. Christian, did you want to actually just give us an overview of it?
Yeah, look, I think we've teed it up nicely. If we just quickly show sort of the nuts and bolts. So before we share the screen, so just to explain what I've done. So in our depository platform, we've teed up a tenancy. So basically, we've set up a tenancy that's concluding. The tenant has arranged their checkout, has arranged their clean, and where it's sat at the moment is it's on checkout day. So we've got a tenancy set up that's ending today. And what we're going to do is we're going to show how we go from that stage through to the proposed deductions. So in a second, we'll show the screen. I'm then going to hop across into the Capture software platform and upload a report. So I've pre-prepared a report, and in there we've got meter readings. So we've got electricity, gas and water meter data captured in there. And then we've put in 2 proposed dilapidations. So we've put in a dirty oven and an overgrown garden that have been picked up in the checkout report. So we're just going to show from the point of checkout how that goes through. One thing I am going to say, we're doing this in our demo environment, so it should work absolutely fine. But no, just to say, our demo environment is slightly slower than our live environment, so you will see a little bit of lag between each action.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen in our live space. Our live space is instant. But yeah, just that little disclaimer.
Let me deal with that. Like, oh, demo gods, be kind.
Please be kind. Cool. In which case, Whaley, I'm ready when you are. You just tell me when the screen's up, and I'll wade through.
Were you being a little bit cheeky there about the overgrown garden? Or was
Yeah,
that
absolutely. It's on. Yeah. Funny.
Okay. All right, let's just see. So you won't. I don't think you'll be able to see this, Christian.
No.
But we can see the screen up there fine. We've got the depository screen out. It's wonderful, clean UI, as I've said many times. Lovely dashboard down the left-hand side, just with the toolbar down there. And we're looking at here at the sort of checkout date timeline at the top.
Yeah, so we've got the tenancy timeline. So the inventory relates to the booking and the checkout. So the checkouts. Oh, hello. Checkout's been booked, clean's been booked, and so we've arrived at the checkout day. Now, normally, this next stage would all be done manually. You'd say the checkout's happened, you'd manually upload the checkout report, you'd input the metadata, and you'd input the deduction. So, like I said, I'm going to hop across to the capture system. We've got a report that's ready to go, and we're just going to upload that to the library.
To be 100% clear again there, Nick, this is your system, isn't it?
This is part of our system. And the report's already been completed and
done.
It's come over from ours.
So we're going to come back in here and we're just going to refresh this page.
It was that simple that Christian did it in the 2 seconds we were talking.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't even. He beat me.
And there we go. So that's the integration pulled through. So you can see we were at the checkout stage. It's completed meter readings and gone through to deductions. And you've now got review deposit deductions imported from No Letting Go. So I'm just going to quickly take you back and just walk through those stages. So with the checkout, it's validated that the checkout's taken place, which has certified the end of tenancy. Yep. It's captured the checkout report in the platform, which anyone can link and open. That has also instantly been emailed out to the landlords and tenants to say it's been completed, it's available to view in the platform. If we come into the meter readings, it's captured the meter reading data. So if we go in here are all the meter readings. So we've captured the date they were read, the reading, the meter reference number, and if there's images of the meter readings as well, that's captured in there. So you've got that. And then, like I said, we go into deduction. So review the deposit deductions imported by No Letting Go, and we click on that. And here are those two issues. So we've got the overgrown garden. So it didn't, No Letting Go doesn't have a gardening action. So we put that through as maintenance. We just need to reassign that to a gardening class. The agent will assign a value. And then it pulls through any description. So massively overgrown requires grass cutting, etc. And any photographic evidence are also pulled through. Now, the agents can still edit this. So they can reference a tenancy contract. So they can say, oh, F6 in our tenancy contract is the clause about garden maintenance. If they want, they can add, let's say, an invoice. So they can come in here and say, oh, I've got an invoice for that clean. So they can add additional evidence to it. And then when they're happy, they just sign off on that. And that goes to draft stage. And then they do the same thing with the second one. So again, cleaning, kitchen oven, they assign a value to that. And again, they can edit that as they see fit.
Yeah.
Again, upload an invoice for that if they want. Click save. And so that's it. No reading a checkout report. Those two highlighted issues are in there. Now, you know, there might be rent arrears on this tenancy. So if an agent wants to add rent arrears, they can just add new deduction. They can come in here and go rent and rent arrears and add in, you know, whatever. I'm not going to add that in. We can cancel that. But the point is that an agent can add to that. And then when an agent's ready, this is what we were talking about earlier, this is the opportunity where if you want to keep that personal touch, this is a really good opportunity to get on the phone to your landlord, you know, and say, look, I don't know if you've already had a chance to look at the checkout report, but there's two issues that have been highlighted. We've put them in. I just want to talk through them with you. And then you can have a chat with your landlord. And then depending what your landlord's response is, if your landlord is like, yeah, you know what, I've had a look at the report, I'm happy with that, that can go straight off to the tenants. You just sign off deductions. And if the landlord's giving you verbal approval, you can skip landlord approval and you click sign off, and that will just send those straight off to the tenants to review. Equally, if your landlord's like, do you know what, I'd rather have a look at those and have a bit of time, then you sign off as an agent and then that goes through a sort of due diligence sign off by the landlord, and then that pulls us through that system. So your landlord will have a chance to edit, add, whatever. So that captures your sort of due diligence in terms of your client sign off, and then we take that process over to the tenants. But I can quickly show you that now. So if we skip the landlord approval, and we do sign off, and then if I quickly jump to my emails,
always dangerous.
Always dangerous. And so here is the email to the tenants. The tenants will get an email like this, which sets out the proposed deductions already in there. And if I open that, can you still see this screen? Because it's an incognito one. So this is the tenant dashboard. So they come in, and literally everything they need to assess this deduction is right there. So they've got the check-in report, the checkout report, the tenancy agreement, any of the uploaded evidence, any of the contextual evidence that's been put in, the description, the amount, the contract clause reference is all there. And so the tenant can then approve or decline according to how they review that. For the purpose of today, we're just going to say, yeah, that tenant's happy with both of those deductions, and they've approved both of those. And if we jump back into here and we just refresh that now. And so we're now onto the refund stage. So ready to initiate refund. And then an agent will just come in and sign off on the final ledger. And that now triggers the payment information with the tenants. So again, if we jump back into here, we quickly refresh that, and we come in here, your money's ready to refund, and we capture this whole process. Now, if it's a TDS custodial tenancy, once you sign off on that breakdown, that just triggers through our integration with TDS custodial instructions to them to facilitate the refund directly. If you're with TDS insured, we will just gather tenants' details. And if it's a joint tenancy, we'll also capture how those funds are allocated between tenants, who gets how much, and where, how, and why. When they submit their payment information, they also have to give us a forwarding address, because again, we know that's another challenge for agents, is capturing forwarding addresses from tenants is really difficult. So if they have to submit payment information, they have to give a forwarding address. And if we jump one more time back into the platform, we've now got this ready to refund. And you can have an accounts user set up within our platform. So if you have a specific member of staff that just does account stuff, they will get a notification at this stage to say this tenancy is ready for a refund. And they will go in, and all the tenant payment information will be there, and they will just notify the system of the date that transaction was made. And again, that will just update the tenant to say your refund has been made. Here we go. So it says, there you go, your refund's been made. And the final thing that a tenant can do, about half of them do this, half of them don't, is they can go in and actually verify that they've received those funds. So you've got that end date. Our tenancy will auto conclude even without that, because obviously, like I said, only about half the tenants do that. And then if I just refresh that, that will be our whole tenancy process completely concluded. And then our platform also auto generates a completion report, which can be downloaded and saved in your CRM or whatever. And it is literally just a PDF summary of that entire transaction, what was proposed, who signed off, at what stage, etc., etc. So that's it. That's it in a nutshell.
It's a fantastic integration, I think.
Tell me when you stop sharing my screen, and I'll click back so I can see you guys again.
Back in the room now.
Hey, there we go.
Yeah, okay.
I think it's going to make some massive leaps forward, Chris, in the market. And Rich, you haven't been in the lettings industry as long as I have. So
thanks for that. No, I've not seen it before today. I watched a snippet video last night where I think somebody referred to Christian as God, which probably sums it up. To me, the challenges we have in lettings, and especially that end of tenancy, it removes, it's accurate. It removes an element of human error, which you're always going to get. But also, like we've mentioned before, it removes the emotional decisions that we as agents make. And anybody who says they don't make a decision, the treatment they give the tenant at the end of tenancy, who's been an absolute pain the entire tenancy, you know, I challenge anybody to say they haven't been biased towards a landlord in that case, or vice versa. It removes all of that, and the time save is the biggest.
I think what this also highlights, you know, is how critical the data that's collected from your inventory company, how critical that is, because clearly if you're using, whether you're doing it in-house or externally, if that data's not, you know, you can't trust the data's being picked up. Of course, it's going to follow all the way through. So you've got to use good companies, you've got to use good systems, etc., all the way through. It all goes back to the old adage, you know, the devil's in the detail at the end of the day. You've got to pick up that information on site to get the right outcome.
And one final point I would add to that as well, Nick, is you've got that digital paper trail, haven't you?
Yeah.
Which is always a challenge, you know, picking up the phone 7 times a day and having a conversation and then having to document what that conversation was. Is either, you know, poor efficiency or a risk at the point the tenant says, I never agreed to that, or a landlord.
Yeah, it's very difficult to argue, whether it be tenant, landlord, or anyone else for that matter, to argue the case when the facts are there on paper. You know, it takes a lot of discussion now.
I mean, the other nice thing with our platform as well is, you know, anytime anyone goes on holiday, goes sick, or leaves a company, you know, you can reassign a case within our platform to another member of staff super easily. But they will just jump in, and rather than having to trawl through 3 weeks of emails and notes on the system, literally they can just jump in wherever those deduction negotiations are at. And any negotiations, you know, we showed how that presents to tenants. If they respond and say, no, I disagree, they can counter offer, they can add their evidence. That whole conversation happens in a timeline. So you'll have at the bottom of the page, you'll have the original proposal all the way up to the latest response by whoever did it. So you reassign that case over to someone else. They can literally jump in our system. Right, there's 3 deductions. Where are they at? Great. Okay, I can see the conversation. I can see the evidence, both sides. Great. Step straight in. You know, literally within 5 minutes, not even that, probably 2 minutes, you can take over a case from someone, know exactly where it's at, and progress it on, rather than like an hour of pouring through, like I said, emails and telephone calls and so on and so forth, trying to figure out where exactly you're at in that process.
Perfect. And Nick, just on that, Capture, which is your software, this is relevant to an agent who does their own checkouts but uses your software, as well as NLG being outsourced to undertake the inspections.
Yeah, one of the so we have 2 sides of the business. We have obviously No Let and Go, which is all of the outsourcing, the inventory clerks around the country. Capture is the software that the whole of the operation uses, but we also provide it to, obviously a lot of agents still do stuff in-house, whether it's some or part of the process in-house, and so people can utilize that software. It all comes into the same system. It's all part of the full integration into Depositary. So you've got the advantages, whatever your process. One of the advantages that No Let and Go have in this process, it does mean that in flexible times, so some of our clients, for example, would use Capture at part of the year. When it gets busy, they start outsourcing and they use it, but it all sits on the same system. So it has that, you can manage the consistency and the training. Everyone knows exactly what's going on at all times. So and that's the reason that we have this sort of combined approach to the market.
We've got a couple of questions, guys, if that's okay. Now, it does come up, and I'll pretend it's a GDPR protective thing here, but it's from generic Facebook user. And just to be clear, this isn't me typing, as I know a lot of people think. No, this is actually Ian Crampton, who's just logged in. He says, "Afternoon all. A question for Christian. In the event the government or we as an industry support the introduction of lifetime deposits, do you think this platform could offer a solution with adaptations for agents and tenants?"
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we're going to evolve with what the deposit space does. I think the general expectations in the deposit space are, firstly, that deposits in the near future will become entirely custodial. I think the likelihood is that the government will remove the ability for agents and landlords to hold deposits at all anymore. There's still too many horror stories of deposits going missing. I think custodial is the most robust. And lifetime deposits or you know, deposit passport, whatever you want to call it, it's something I've supported for quite a long time, because yeah, the double deposit thing is a real friction point, but fundamentally the process doesn't change. You know, the deposit passporting, this lifetime deposit that transitions from tenancy to tenancy, that just simplifies going from one to the other. But actually your end of tenancy process will still be the same. You'll still move out, you'll still have liabilities, you'll still have negotiations, and if you have deductions, that will need to come off your deposit. So fundamentally, what we do won't change, just how we interact with the deposit schemes around that might. But yeah, absolutely, we will pivot alongside with that as and when the government decides to legislate accordingly.
Yeah.
Good. And then there's another one here, just talking generically as well. What other plans do you have with the platform? Ones that you can tell us rather than have to kill us.
So look, I mean, what I would say is we're constantly evolving the platform. So we're constantly, you know, we have a really good in-depth understanding of operationally what agents need to do. So we're constantly looking at this system, and whether it's responding to feedback we get from our agents saying, oh, it'd be really great if, you know, we're definitely listening to that. And if we hear something, you know, we'll sort of sound that out with our client base. And if we think that's really important, we'll drive that forwards. I think we've currently got about 8 to 10 features that we're working on at the moment that we're going to be rolling out in the next couple of months. And there's little things in there, like, so one of the settings that we're working on at the moment is, as I mentioned earlier, when the checkout report's uploaded to the platform, we currently instantly distribute that to the landlord and the tenant. One of the slight issues with that is we're seeing some tenants are reacting to that checkout report before they even know if there are going to be any deductions. So what we're going to roll out is the option that if agents want to, they can tweak a setting that will delay releasing that report to the tenant until the agent or landlord confirms whether or not there are deductions. So it will still say to the tenant the checkout report's been completed, so they know the tenancy's still moving forwards. But then when an agent or landlord says, yep, here are 2 deductions, or do you know what, there's no deductions, at that point it will say, yeah, you'll be glad to hear there's no deductions of your tenancy, but you can still view the checkout report. Let's get on with the refund. There's another one you saw with the clauses. You can reference tenancy clauses. We're building a little sort of cheat sheet in the master settings, so agents will be able to go into in their account and pre-populate popular clauses. So I think most agents will know that their deductions will typically fall within 5, maybe 10 tenancy clauses maximum will cover 98% of deductions. It will be damage to furnishings, cleaning requirements, gardening requirements, rent arrears, etc. Rather than having their staff need to know their tenancy agreement inside out, or having to read through a tenancy each time and go, oh yeah, it's clause that. They'll be able to pre-populate popular clauses, and then that will just be a drop-down list. So when they're putting in or updating an imported deduction, they'll just click on the drop-down list and assign that, oh yeah, G6 garden maintenance or F4 rent arrears, whatever it is. So, you know, just constant little tweaks like that. Obviously, we keep on looking at partner integrations, and our main thing really going forward as well is obviously CRM integrations in the future. You know, that's the next and sort of final thing for us in terms of the proper sort of end-to-end integration of processes.
Well, I'm going to cut you some slack because you've made the leap from the benign world of the estate agent, and you've become one of those prop tech baddies that we've heard so much around. But don't you ever just talk about stuff like that without saying things like, what are your plans? It's got a lot of AI going on. Blockchain's probably in there, and then you wave your wand like that.
Of course, you've got a wand. Like.
Look, I think big stuff for us was something Nick mentioned earlier. I mean, data is definitely something that's a big thing for us to look at down the line. I think realistically, probably the end of this year, beginning of next year, we're going to really look at how we help agents extract data out of our platform that is really useful. We want to sort of gamify the platform as well. So what we want to encourage people to do is we want to encourage agents proposing fair deductions, but we also want to encourage agents to return deposits as fast as possible. And, you know, again, integrations like No Letting Go help us do that. You know, I know with our inventory clerk has recently signed up with an inventory software package. Before that, he would do a checkout. He would then send that off to a typing service, so we'd probably have to wait 3, 4, 5 days for that checkout report to be ready. That would then come in. Property managers would then need a couple of days to allocate time to read through that. So, we've basically taken a week out of the timeline of that process by just importing that stuff instantly.
And would you see that then, like in the way that Josh Fegan came over and started talking about, time on the market stats are vital in terms of that communication? You could envisage the day that you are one of the quickest agents to return the deposits and really almost compete on that level.
Yeah, so look, I think the national average for deposit returns is 21 days from the end of a tenancy. Last year we averaged 17 days, so we're already about 20% under market rate. I think this year our ambition is to get that under 14 days. And next year we want to try and get that into single digits. We want to try and get under 10 days for that to be reconciled.
A lot of the solutions that certainly you and I, Chris, have spoke about before, and these steps that we're doing now, that can come tumbling. That length of time can get down to 7 to 10 days is very achievable.
Yeah. And I think also what we want to, coming back to the data, what we want to do as well is to be able to give agents data that they can leverage and different ways. So, let's say an agent has a 98% success rate of what they propose being approved by tenants. What a powerful statistic to take to potential landlords of saying, look, here is independently verified information that our processes are so watertight that 98% of what we propose for your property we get for your property in terms of damages and deductions. Equally for tenants, to be able to say, our average tenancy deduction is £110, versus a national average of 240, let's say, great. Or, we can independently certify that on average our deposits are returned within 7 days of the end of your tenancy. What an amazing thing to put on your listings, put in your shop window, put on your website. That is going to attract good tenants, that they know you've got a fair process and they get their money back fast, but that's independently verified. It's not an agent going, hey, trust me, we're fair. Because, everyone loves to trust an agent.
But it is, the depository is part of that. When the checkout's completed, of course, somebody's gone into that property and they've got that report carried out. The speed in which that report comes from that inventory company, or if you're using capture, gets into the system is critical, because that sort of period of time, that 14-day period of time, of course, is if it's taking you 5 days to get your report, then you cut in 5 days into that. So the whole process is about has got to be improved through that, and this is where we're going, and this is where I think we've made massive leaps and bounds in that.
Yeah. It's really encouraging. And look, I mean, somebody else is here, and again, just mentioning the point. And he said, "Get me in the room with you guys. We're using the platform, and it's transformed our end of tenancy process." So, always nice to have somebody actually validating what their guests have to say. So, thank you for that, Ian. Lovely to hear. Gary Barker comes back as well, just commenting. I completely agree. Data and transparency of data is hugely important for prop tech companies to help agents make well-informed decisions. Yeah, couldn't agree more. And then again, he appears to be a generic, but this I can reveal is FixFlow's Raj on the line again here. What is the biggest risk and biggest opportunity for letting agents in 2021? So all on the panel, other than Simon, it's all about sales. Well, I'm doing well to stay awake, Raj, you cheeky get. Right. Okay. What's the biggest risk and opportunity for lettings agents?
Look, I think biggest opportunity is, the last year, this pandemic has made agents focus. I think a lot of agents who sat on the fence about processes, about digitization, about workflows and streamlining and automation, those were like, but it's fine. We're still happy with the transactions we do. I think this has taken a lot of those people off the fence, and we're talking to a lot of agents who are really looking at every step of their operations. And I think lettings actually much more than sales lends itself to this. Lettings is massively process driven. Good processes, well engineered, lead to a really good and efficient lettings agency. So I think, what we're seeing is agents taking a really detailed look at every single bit of their process and looking at how can they strip that down to make it lean? How can they make the job as easy as possible for their staff while still delivering a really good consumer experience? And I think that, you know, that's the big opportunity. In terms of risk, I don't know necessarily that there is a big risk per se at the moment, any more than normal.
Carrying on as before, isn't it?
I echo, I think, what Chris is saying. I think probably the biggest risk for letting agents is not learning from the previous year. I think that's is essentially not taken on board. I mean, a lot of people have been working from home, so there's been a lot of opportunity to look at processes and systems, and as a result, I think the way we run our businesses and the way everything works within the system, particularly in the lettings industry, of course, because as Chris mentioned, it's massively process orientated, massively administratively driven. Yeah. So stripping out a lot of that, and getting good companies, people where there's added value, working closely together. Raj is on the line. Kixlow, of course, they're dealing at a part of the process which is equally as important as all the different elements we're speaking about here. But I think probably the biggest risk for agents is doing nothing.
Yeah, apathy, right?
Opportunity to do something.
Spot on. Okay, Raj, hopefully that keeps you happy and nice to have you on again. Agree more. That's is this him talking about here? Just says here. Oh God, what's going on here? Biggest opportunities out there to convert let-only landlords to fully managed. Stop allowing landlords to choose a let-only service. I am assuming that's Raj. It could be somebody else.
Yeah, I think we're seeing a lot of agents do this, eliminate a let-only service and go to either rent collection or fully managed.
Yeah.
I mean, apart from anything, there's a legal statute now that queries actually whether an agent is ever let-only. You can actually be liable for a lot of things. I think a lot of agents are unaware actually how liable they are for things that their landlords may do under a let-only service. So, I would concur with that. I think any agent getting more control over the process. And I think there's so much regulation in lettings now. 10, 15 years ago, converting those landlords would have been a really hard sell. I think now there is so much compliance and regulation that landlords have to be on top of. And look, let's face it, the average landlord has 1 to 2 properties. So portfolio landlords different. They will take a different view and should typically be more informed and more educated on what's involved. But your sort of accidental landlords with 1 or 2 properties, they're not going to have the time to wrap their head around 150 different laws and regulations and the constantly changing and evolving space. So, pay an agent a few extra quid and offload that entire responsibility to an organization that will take care of it for you.
We do enormous amount of education directly to the landlord market, and much of that education is, of course, it's very focused around inventory management, evidence, and how critical paperwork is. And you'll be, even to this day, and all the years I've been involved in the lettings industry, to this day, I'm still talking to landlords who really don't appreciate how much work is involved in managing a property and what their liabilities are. So I think that there's as much a responsibility for organisations such as Arla and sort of NOWS to not only to obviously look after the interests of agents, but to help agents by educating the landlord market, much as sort of the NLA used to do and that sort of thing, is get people to understand that let only is not a great option really. You should be pushing into property management for property management services.
Yeah, spot on. And Rich, from your point of view, do you concur with all that? You want to use the biggest opportunities and risks?
Completely concur. And going away from the business side and generating finances, where I think there's a huge opportunity and where we're very lucky is what tech's done. It's enabled us to improve a user or a consumer experience, and as such, a relationship between a letting agent and a consumer improves. We improve efficiencies, but we're also able to improve our user experience. By users, I mean our agents.
Yeah.
And as such, traditionally, and I'm probably showing my age, but 24 years ago, lettings was firstly with poor relation, but fundamentally it was admin, people with a strong admin skill set. and maybe lacked, that problem solving ability or the salesmanship of it all. Whereas with the efficiencies and the tech, we can really develop our staff away from that admin based role and get some real problem solving staff out there who will want to do it. Nobody wanted to do lettings in the late 90s because it was paperwork. It wasn't driving an Escort XR3i and selling houses. It's become. You told me about them cars, Nick.
It had a bendy aerial and everything.
Yeah. So I think the opportunity is as much about where we can go as an industry, how we can improve, how the consumers believe in what we do.
Yeah, I agree.
And Peter Lawrence just jumped in as well. From his point of view, it's wait a minute here. He was talking about it's a sales business. Tech does the admin, and also just talking about that challenge there. Cheap fees and intro only is a business going backwards.
Yeah,
look, you've got to know your worth. I mean, I've engaged with a few agent comments in some of the networking groups of late, and it's quite funny. Quite a lot of agents going, "Oh, can I run a situation by you? I've got this landlord. I bend over backwards for them. Doesn't matter how much I do, it's never good enough. They're on a discount fee, and they're never happy with what we do. All of our other landlords love what we do. What should we do?" And it's like, well, you know what to do. You know what to do. Politely say, thank you for your business, but we don't think we're the right agent for you. I mean, it was something we did at Base about 5 years ago, and I wish we'd done it sooner. We had maybe 5% of our landlords took up 35 to 40% of our time.
Yeah.
And as per that example I gave, they were landlords who typically we always went above and beyond what our terms and conditions required us to do anyway. And regardless, it was never ever good enough. And we reached a final, very eloquently put, Peter. We reached a final point. Maybe a little bit more intricately and delicately than that. But we reached a final point where we were like, look, enough is enough. 95% of our landlords absolutely love what we do. And then we've got this 5% that we really struggle with. And so, we wrote to those 5% of landlords. And
call them terrorists, what they are.
Let's call them terrorists. So we wrote to those terrorists, and we just basically said, look, thank you. Most of them have been with us for several years. We said, thank you so much for the last few years of business. However, we feel like maybe we've gone in a different direction to what you require from an agent, and we feel like maybe at the end of this tenancy, it's about time that we parted ways, and you maybe found an agent that was more suitable to your service requirements. And the fascinating thing was, half of those landlords basically sent like a one-line email reply going, fine.
Yeah.
And the other half either wrote an email to us or called us. The other half either emailed us instantly or called us going, what have I done? What have we done to upset you? And we had really candid conversations with those landlords. And every single one of those landlords agreed to a fee increase.
Right.
And they are also now our top 5% best landlords.
Well, hats off to you, Christian, for copying the Simon Whale guide to getting my exes to dump me. That was there. I got a fee increase out of them. That changes the whole point of that relationship. But anyway, I think it's absolutely true, isn't it? Some will react with horror as to how they are, and some people will literally, they are the black holes that will just absorb all of your time. And frankly, can't be kept happy, and they're there in every walk of life, aren't they? And it's a sign of a maturing business to be able to identify those and turn away those people before they become a drain on your business in the first place.
And look, I think there's always this psychology. We fall into the same bracket as parking wardens and politicians and journalists, in that people feel like they can rant at us for very little genuine cause. And I think as agents, and I think particularly on the letting side, I think we accept the fact that we play this sort of multitudinal role of sort of counsellor, friend, support network, particularly in smaller agencies, maybe not so much in the big corporates, but in smaller independent agencies, you play quite a broad role with your landlord sometimes. And sometimes landlord, there is that feeling sometimes that landlords can just vent at you at any given time or will. And you can let everyone has their off days. You can let people have a rant once in a while. But there's nothing wrong with, if you feel it's a little bit unjustified, sort of calling them on it.
Yeah, and landlords have a go at agents, and agents have a go at prop tech.
And prop tech stand in the corner in their anoraks and cry.
So industry companies are the last people to get it. We get it tenant, landlord, and agent.
And
you're a sucker for now, aren't you? That's absolutely cool. Guys, we're going to have to round up, but Peter's just making the points there. He's increased managed fees. No one's ever questioned it. Please will always pay for us. Please will always pay for a service. Oh, okay.
I think it means people. People will always pay for a service.
It's all right. I know we're quite a dyslexic industry as it happens anyway. And landlords will always pay for a service. Absolutely right there.
I agree.
Yeah, look, guys, hats off to you. I think that's a really nice. The day, what it shows to me again, that the day marching towards us, where the CRM systems of old would try to be the one system to rule them all and do everything, and shock horror. It meant that, especially in some of these more niche areas, they didn't specialize, they didn't deliver because they were hard, difficult, and no one paid any attention. I think what you're showing here is that two companies, albeit disparate organizations, can work closely together and actually have that effect that they don't know they're really using different systems. And yet you're getting best in class from both of you specialists. So it's real hats off again. I love these tie-ups because, we already heard from Ian before. You're delivering for them. You were delivering a service before, and these sorts of things only increases that. So well done. Let's talk commercials as well. First and foremost, of course, both of these guys got great reviews, and go to their landing pages, obviously on the wonderful Pink site. They've both got deals as well in there. So do go and have a look, and you can find these guys in the normal places if you want to talk to them. I think you'll need to get to you, Christian, quick, won't you? Because your backlog of clients is running quite long now, isn't it?
Yeah, we're good problems. We're quite busy. But yeah, look, I mean, whether you're a no letting go client that's potentially interested in Depositary, or Depositary client interested in no letting go services, I think, what Nick and I would say is reach out to whoever you're comfortable with. Contact No Letting Go, contact us. We'll happily talk you through what we know about ourselves and each other's products, and then gladly make an introduction over for a more in-depth sort of insight into that particular product and pricing and et cetera. But yeah, very, very, happy-go-lucky.
Yeah, we're pushing out to all of our clients, up and down the country, and saying, look, have a look at this. This is going to take a chunk of time. There's so much added value in here, and we want to encourage as many of our clients and people that prospects and people that are coming into the No Letting Go sort of family. This is a real added value.
And there's no premium for this, right, Nick? We're both, we've both invested substantial amount of money building these APIs. Yeah. But you're not charging a £10 premium for an API No Letting Go report. We're not charging a premium subscription service to switch this on. You literally just go into our settings dashboard, go to integrations, and just go through the linking steps to link your account.
If you're an existing.
Make sure we click on it somewhere. I don't know how that works.
Well, if they're both not charging £10, that's £20 for Kerfuffle, isn't it?
Yeah, that's not happening.
I get that.
It is straightforward. If you're an existing No Letting Go client, just talk to us and we'll turn the integration straight on. And vice versa.
Is it as quick as that, Nick? Is it literally?
It literally is. It is as quick as that. It's a straightforward process. It's part of the overall service.
Peter, come on, it's Friday. Just let it go, mate. Let it go. Right, Nick, thank you very much for joining us here today. Rich, my friends, catch up with you. Christian, the God Viking from Byfield. From Simon, only sales whale. Have a great weekend.
Guys, have a great weekend. Thanks a lot for your time.
Cheers.